Engineering is straight up science. Building a bridge takes math. Developing a software program takes coding. But what if you're designing an experience? Belinda Medellin, a former high school teacher and now a UX designer and consultant, says user experience design starts with empathy, where a lot of things start. Welcome to BexarCast. I'm Randy Langford, and this is BexarCast, a weekly interview with business, political, education, and nonprofit leaders. We're examining the relationships between all four and how each one benefits from the success of the other three. In addition to teaching for 12 years, Belinda Medellin has worked for corporations such as AT&T and Allstate, and was a photographer in the U.S. Navy. She was named New Teacher of the Year for Tybee High School in Kerrville in 2007 and was named the San Antonio ISD Secondary Teacher of the Year in 2019. In 2020, she was named the State of Texas Region 20 Secondary Teacher of the Year. Belinda, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
I'm eager to talk to you because I have to admit, UX is very interesting, but a little foreign. I'm not quite sure I understand it, so I'm going to ask a bunch of basic questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
Good, you'll be my mentor. If I understand it, UX is the acronym means user experience,
Yes.
and it's a design process, a user-centric design process. Is that right?
So very close. UX it's a high demand career field, and basically it uses a process that takes psychology and the psychology behind human interaction with both digital and physical products and services to make them useful, desirable, and memorable for users. So there is
So,
a process within UX design.
so shouldn't all design be user-friendly, user-centric like that?
You think it should. And actually, I found a unique quote from a study that was commissioned by Adobe. And the study found that almost half, which is about almost 46% of companies that do not embed user experience design in digital CX, customer experience strategies, reported that their digital CX is on par or weaker than competitors, according to that study. So there are a lot of companies that are suffering because they don't know enough about user experience design yet, or they don't have a strong UX design team.
Right. Well, so it sounds like UX is more, I don't know, precise, I guess, than the shotgun approach that a lot of product design is based on. Instead of designing for the average user, UX is more about psychographics than demographics.
So it's more about yes, and it's that individual user.
Okay.
So as a teacher, that's what caught my eye, because as a teacher, you want to focus on an individual student, and then you have this career field, this design field that's focused on the individual user, and to me, that was just amazing.
So let's talk about that a little bit. The intersection of UX and education, because you were a school teacher at Cast Tech.
Yes.
And now, keep me honest here. You designed the first 4-year UX curriculum in the country?
So the first 4-year pathway,
Okay.
and I can go into the story if you like of how
Yes, yes.
it was not when I was little. I never said when I grow up I want to courses, but I had been teaching for about 11 years, and I taught everything from multimedia, digital graphics, speech and debate, theater. And at Cast Tech, it was this career themed high school that was working with industry to create highly skilled workers right out of high school. So they decided to focus more on the technology sector. Now Cast has a few schools within their network, and they focused on computer science, business, and multimedia. This was before the school even started, that was defined. And then I was teaching digital arts and animation, and the school was project-based learning. So we were doing a career exploration project, And I was teaching the kids how to look at Glassdoor, Salary.com, Indeed.com. And one of the students said, okay, we're taking this digital arts class. How come a graphic designer averages at 35,000 or 36,000 a year, and this UX designer makes 64,000? So, I mean, the teachers always learn from the students. And I was honest, I never heard of UX design. I told them, let me look into it. And this was over the holiday break. And when I went home, I started looking into it more. And I saw that it combined the psychology, graphic design, a little bit of engineering, information architecture, and marketing business. And I thought, why am I teaching just one section of that when companies want this UX designer to do all of the things that are involved to help create that experience for a user? And submitted a proposal to my principal, and she saw the why and the need. And then because our school was connected to industry, I put together an industry board with the help of the partnership director, Amir Samandi, over at Cast Tech. And there were four top-notch UX designers. One was the head of user experience research at Rackspace, and then the head of UX at USAA, and UX designer at Jungle Disc. And they helped teach me a little bit more about UX. And then actually, I apologize before that, we wanted to see if kids would actually like this stuff. So
Yeah.
USAA UX designers came in and did a workshop, and the students loved it and took to it. And that's when I got together with the UX industry board that was created. We decided what would be needed in a course. And then came I would say it was long and arduous process of writing a course to submit to Texas Education Agency to approve for the standards to teach as an innovative course. And after a year, it was approved, which is Foundations of User Experience Design. And then the next year, I wrote the follow-up course standards called Advanced User Experience Design. So those are two current courses. And that was with the help of the UX industry board. Um, and then the pathway was created where we decided at Cast Tech what courses the kids would need in those 4 years to be marketable right after high school.
Right.
So that was a little bit of the story.
Wow. Wow. Well, the part about where it's project based, that really resonates with me. That pushes my buttons as far as Bearfest is concerned, because it, again, project based. The kids pair up, build their production team. They're paired with a nonprofit organization, and then their project is to create media for that nonprofit organization. So it sounds like you and I are rowing in the same direction. I like it.
Yes, we're doing something right.
So I've done a little research, and if I've got this right, you again keep me honest here. There are four basic steps to UX. It starts with research, where you determine the problem to be solved, I guess. Is that right?
So you are correct where UX it's solving a problem through design, but it's more like stages rather than steps.
Okay.
And instead of being linear, it's more circular. And there's always a good stage to start, but you can go back to any other stage if you didn't solve that problem correctly. And the stages that they use is the design thinking process. So here's what I loved as a teacher. The first stage that is highly recommended that most user experience designers start at is the empathy stage.
Uh,
So UX is the foundation is empathy, and that's why I love the class. I think that's how all classes should start. But after empathy, then they do the research stage, and they collect qualitative and quantitative data. And unlike marketing, where they use that data for the whole sector, they're using that data for that individual.
right.
And
Right.
then followed by that, you have your ideation phase. And that's the fun part. That's where I saw grown UX designers playing with Play-Doh and um, like just popsicle sticks and crayons. And I heard that they act things out. So they're having fun at their job coming up with ideas. And then from the ideas is a prototype and then the testing. And of course, if the prototype fails, then you could go back maybe to the empathy
Right.
stage. If the testing fails, maybe you have to go back to the research. So it's, as a teacher, at first I was afraid when I heard user experience design, and then I'm thinking, oh, we already do this. It's just a different way of putting it together. And
Right. Yeah, it's kind of intuitive if you let it.
yes,
You don't fight it. Let the process play out, and it'll work for you. Uh, One of the things in my little bit of research that I did that I found was creating personas is
yeah,
is part of the process. Tell me about that.
that was my, when I learned that, that was so much fun for me. But so in the business world and marketing, like I keep saying, they look at the whole, the group, and they create a fictitious person that might have different attributes of what the average consumer would have, and they use that to guide them in their decisions. So in user experience design, the personas are more individualized, so you have a lot of different methods to come up with that fictitious person, but you're looking at their pain points. Maybe if I'm using a cell phone, if maybe I'll be honest, as I keep getting older, I need these reading glasses. And I started going like this in my cell phone. But so a pain point for me would, I can't see the screen. Obviously, you can make the text larger. So I'm so happy for that feature. UX design team that created that. So the personas get the pain points. Um, any maybe quotes that a user might say, so that when the UX design team works with the development team, the CEO, the marketing team, they give this persona and say, always remember this is your user. And there might be maybe 3 to 5 personas, not just one, but
Sure.
it helps keep you on track. And that's with that empathy piece.
Well, and yeah, that's 3 or 4 or 5 personas. I was thinking, well, yeah, the pain point for a 20-year-old female may be very different than the pain point for a 60-year-old male.
Yes.
So yeah, okay, it makes a lot of sense. Then there's I think you referred to it as the ideation phase where you're sketching wireframes.
So you can do anything from creating a tangible product to, because like I said, UX design is not just for digital. Most of the time, UX designers are hired for websites, apps, even sound design, AR, VR. But the ideation phase of prototypes could come up with, how do things look on the cell phone or the website. And um, there's easy wireframes where you just sketch it out on a piece of paper, so you don't have to be an artist and know how to design.
Right.
Or you can use high fidelity wireframing programs such as Adobe XD or Figma, where you can create just the outline of what it would look like if I looked at this web page or if I looked at this app. With sound design, it looks a little bit different, and with AR design, it looks a little bit different. So
Right.
that's
Well,
why.
and then from there you move on to I guess the testing phase, the prototype.
Yes. So after you have the prototype, and maybe it might just be the wireframe, or it could be the tangible product, you want to see how users can react to it. And that's, the testing has some similarities to how marketing teams test products. So you can do anything from A/B testing, say, do you like this button, this feature, or that button, A or B, to having these high-tech goggles that and the name just left my head.
The
It's like,
VR, you could, yeah.
it's like a scatter plot type of deal, but it tracks where your eyes are looking
Oh,
on the
okay,
screen.
sure.
Yeah. So there's things like that to user interviews. I had students where we brought in a parent and we saw how she was using the Cast Network website because we were doing a redesign of the website. And so the students just observed how she was using it and they gave her some steps or a process to do. And so,
So that comes back to the circular nature of UX,
yeah,
that you create your prototype, you give it to the end user, tell me how this works for you, and then you go back and make modifications.
exactly.
Okay.
And there's
It's
a scientific method.
yeah,
So,
yeah, science, go figure. It sounds to me like UX is very applicable to, and you say it's applicable to a lot of things, but it sounds to me like it'd really be useful in media production. And
yeah,
maybe that's just the lens I see everything through because I work in media production.
right.
But I suppose it's applicable if you're making media or building a house. Is that so?
Yes. And like I said, so I taught theater. My background, my undergrad was in musical theater. So I completely get it. I gravitated towards UX because of that creative mindset where, sometimes you're stuck. And I know some artists are like, I'm creating this art for me, but in actuality, most of the time you're creating art to impact that one individual that's watching that play or seeing that video or hearing that piece of music. So definitely applicable to the arts, but like you said, even building a house. So it's stemmed in engineering, but then it's that empathy piece that makes it so
Right,
important.
right. And I really resonate to that because the storytelling that the kids do at Bearfest is all based on empathy. If you want someone to hear your story and for that story to have meaning to them, you have to be empathetic to their needs and their issues. And
Exactly.
from the outside, people who look at Bearfest say, "Oh, it's an arts festival, it's an arts event," and to a degree, it is. The
Mhm.
kids are creating media. If it's music or graphics or photos or video, whatever it is, they are being creative.
Right.
But I look at it from my perspective as an education event, organization, festival, and as a teacher, I would think that would resonate with you as well. Students are learning a lot of skills that will be applicable in any field. You're going to need to understand storytelling and communications and conflict resolution and critical thinking no matter what field you go into, and Bearfest is an opportunity to learn that. I suspect that UX is applicable in much the same way, that the skills and techniques you learn in mastering UX, if you ever master it, would be applicable if you're an attorney or a doctor or a truck driver.
Yes, and one of the main skills is interpersonal communication and also group communication. So in Bearfest, when they're having to interview the nonprofit to see what is the problem that we need to solve, but then they may have to speak to the marketing team and see what's going on there. And then since it is a group, the team is working together to come up with a solution. And as we all know, when you gather great minds together, you're going to get more of a greater outcome.
And there's going to be some challenges that go with that dynamic. Is get a bunch of strong people together, they're going to have strong opinions, and you're going to have to work your way through that.
Yes, and one thing I will say, I've been lucky because the final piece of this puzzle is I'm now with a company called Digital Influx, where they're in London, and LinkedIn, I found out the CEO was like, "How come they're not teaching UX in schools?" And he had an 11-year-old niece, and he decided, "I want to create a course for kids." So he found me, and now we're creating curriculum for elementary, middle school, and the high schools there as well.
That's
But
great.
what's amazing is for Bearfest and kids in any of the arts really or anything that they want to do, is they get to effectively communicate how they had these creative ideas. But what I've learned from digital influx was to fail fast. And that's what user experience designers do. They do these things called design sprints where they just want to get a product out there or a wireframe to see if you fail fast. And like when I was in theater, I wanted to be perfect. I wanted that perfectionist. Or when I'm doing graphic design, oh no, it's not perfect. And you could spend hours and hours. And that's where I see kids mess up a little bit because they spend so much time when if they could just fail fast at first and then go through that testing and then go back to whatever stage they need to. So that's one thing that I learned from UX, and I know kids can.
What is it? Fail fast, fail often, and fail forward.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I agree. I agree. I've had teachers tell me that when their kids get involved in Bearfest, that some of the kids start out with, I'm fine being behind the camera. I'll just be the editor. I don't need to meet the client. I'll just you shoot the video. I'll bring it back. I'll edit it, and that'll be my contribution. And when the kids get involved in the team element, that they sort of blossom.
Hmm.
That they start out unsure of themselves and a little shy, and I it just let me do my work by myself. I don't need to be involved in the grand scheme. And once they get a taste of that, yeah, let me add it. I have ideas. I have input. I have a position that I want to see expressed. Is that development? Does that kind of thing happen in UX teams as well? Do kids suddenly come out of their shell and, oh, this turns me on. I want more of this.
Definitely at Cast Tech because I did do project-based learning and then putting that together with UX because I'll be honest, there's a fun element to UX. I think it's that
Absolutely.
phase. I saw exactly that happen because most of our students were geared toward computers and they were all behind the scenes. And we had a lot of kids interested in cybersecurity and coding. And then they saw exactly what you said. I can do that. And they blossomed and they wanted to do more, or they were even uncomfortable with public speaking because it was their product and they were passionate about it. So that's exciting to see when kids get into this
And
stuff.
it's a couple of the agendas in Bearfest is we want kids to experience media production. It may not be your thing. It may not be what you are attracted to, but try it.
Right.
You don't know until you try. Try the asparagus. You might like it, maybe not. And the other thing we wanted to do was expose kids to the inner workings of a nonprofit organization and let them see that you can be passionate about kids or animals or veterans or the homeless and have a career. That not everybody that works at a nonprofit organization is a volunteer. There are people getting paid to do this, and you could too. I would think that would be the same agenda as you had in creating the UX program, that I want kids to experience this. It may open up a whole new world for you. And when you talk about it's fun and it's exciting, I get a real kick out of seeing kids just light up. And I'm
Hmm.
sure you do too.
Oh, yes. Yes, certainly.
You kind of have to have that passion to be a teacher. You're not in it for the glamour.
Right. Well, and at Cast Tech, the students get to choose out of the three pathways what they want to pursue. And what I love is telling the students that this is a great way to just dip your toes in what you might want to do without having to spend all the money in college. And then,
Right.
like me, I changed my major so many times. I'm like, so it's like just getting those experiences and the students at Bearfest are doing actual careers that are out there and they get that taste and they build up their portfolio. It's a win-win.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then at the end of the day, the nonprofits walk away with media assets they wouldn't otherwise have. And I'm sure that the end users that are the recipients of the UX projects that your students are working on end up with a product they better than they anticipated. I didn't know it could be this good.
Yeah, and that all comes down to that team aspect
Right.
and going through the stages of design thinking and
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm amazed, and I'm like, I didn't teach them that. They did that. I did that with them.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah, yeah. They outran the instructor.
yeah.
It happens every day. Well, now speaking of instructors, now I know this much more about UX than I did when we started.
Yay.
So yeah, so thank you. I appreciate that. You've managed to educate an old man, which is not an easy thing to do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your guidance, and thanks for what you're doing for kids who are just looking for an opportunity. Thanks for giving them that.
Thank you for
My
having me
pleasure. My
today.
pleasure. I see you soon. We'll talk again soon.
All right.